I don't have time to put another couple years, several years, many years into a relationship that is not going to work out. Like I've literally run out of time to do that. So,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because the brainwashing would have you believe that that's just all noise, like that it doesn't mean anything. And it's just like all of this communication going on all of the time, you know?
you have had the opportunity to take a mirror out and look at yourself in a completely different way and really recognize where you're holding yourself back. Were you fooling yourself? Were you telling yourself stories? And really go, oh, okay. And once you shine a flashlight on that, it's very difficult to forget that that's what's happening inside you, right?
Welcome to Read the Room. Today we are having a sit-down conversation with Agnieszka Evanson, our somatic intelligence activator, and one of her new students, Jonna Calvillo. And to start off, Agnieszka, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that means, somatic intelligence activator?
Thank you very much, Noel. Yes, and nice to see you, Jonna. Somatic intelligence activator is somebody who shows you or leads you to understand your body at a deeper level. So your body is continually giving you signals about what's happening, what it's perceiving, and the body will perceive things that the eyes and the brain may not be able to notice. And also it's sending out signals. So you're sending and receiving signals from yourself to other people all the time, but nobody can read it anymore because we are brought up in a society that prioritizes the mind, like think about it, be careful with your decisions, but not the gut feeling. Like, how do you feel about it? What's your gut telling you? And as a matter of fact, the propaganda that we're exposed to all the time, it goes the other direction. It says, oh no, it's all in your head. You're just imagining it. Be smart about it, and so it's pushing us away from using our intuition and our body as a source of wisdom and into the mind. So I want to bring that back and create a society where people are more aware of their bodies and other people's bodies and are able to read them like a language, like a book.
Amazing. So, and this sounds like it has applications like in a few different ways. I know it can help you get in touch with yourself, but it can also help you with your relationships with other people, right?
Absolutely.
So, just like for instance, if you wanted to go out on a date with somebody, like being able to read whether or not that person's right for you, right? And
Yes, exactly. Like that new guide I just put up on the website with the mistakes women make on first dates. That's some of the key postures and body language were outlined there. You can look at their breathing, you can look at their shoulder movement, at their head tilt. Everything has a meaning.
and Jonna, that's part of some of why you wanted to join Agnieszka's class, right? Is to learn a little bit more about that. Would you like to tell us maybe what you were looking for out of Agnieszka's class before you joined?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found it to be, really broadly applicable, like you said, to not only understanding more about yourself, but also being able to accurately perceive and interpret the signals and outward manifestations in other people of what's going on with them. So, it's like best double-edged sword you could ask for in not only understanding yourself better, but understanding others, and possibly almost kind of likely in ways that they're not understanding themselves because not many people have done this work on themselves. So, yeah, it was a really intriguing tool to begin to learn how to use.
Um, yeah, so because on what you were saying is like, and I think something I've heard Agnieszka said before is it kind of helps you teaches you to have compassion, like not only for yourself but for other people, because once you know where those things are coming from, it's easier to put yourself in their shoes. Would you like to speak a little to that, Agnieszka?
It does that. I call it radical empathy, right? Where we can really communicate with this other person without, instead of thinking, oh, he's just a grumpy old man, you can go, oh, I see grief. I see hurt. I see that somebody hurt him in the heart and now he's carrying that pain. But also you can see bad intentions, condescension, um, meanness, things that you might want to avoid in a relationship, like whether it's employer or a date or a contract, like partners in a project or whatever. It really helps you like see through the red flags or see the red flags, I guess. See through the bullshit to the red flags.
Right. Yeah, very much. So Jonna, you are you are looking for love currently, right? And we're hoping that some of this stuff could help you find a potential partner. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're hoping to learn that it will help you in your search?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, first of all, it's going to be a tool for me to understand myself better because I feel like that's where it's always got to start. And you can't go about judging other people if you haven't, kind of dealt with your own shit, right? So, in that way, I wanted it to help me in my quest to reorient and further understand my own state of being and what may have, contributed to bringing me to that state so that I can also do the work of understanding what needs to be done to remedy any certain things or, maybe give the love and attention to certain things that haven't been getting that, and so on and so forth. And then also, I'm in a place where, I'm feeling kind of the time crunch in future planning. And I also have put a lot of time into a couple different people in the past. I really haven't like had a wide variety of experiences, I guess. It was more like a lot of experience in a couple areas. And so, number one, I really do not feel comfortable with the like dating app approach. Um, I feel like the life path, if you are in pursuit of your best self, will lead you to that person. But regardless, I don't have time to put another couple years, several years, many years into a relationship that is not going to work out. Like I've literally run out of time to do that if I want to do the things that I want to do in so far as becoming a mother and like starting that chapter of my life. So I'm kind of in this position where like I don't have time to waste on anybody, like, and waiting to find out later these things, about them or about our um chemistry or the way that we work together. I'm almost just under pressure to assess as quickly as possible. Is this person worth more time or not? Because yeah, I've run out of the experimental stage time.
Right, right. Yeah, because sometimes it's a little more nuanced than just, whether or not he's a nice guy or whether or not, he may because like you want somebody who makes you laugh, but you also want to feel like you have space in the relationship, and it's not just one-sided. So, yeah, I could see where if you could pick that up on somebody's face beforehand, that could be very useful.
Yes, because I've learned quite a bit about what I'm attracted to and then what doesn't work though. If and especially like as a related trait. Like for instance, I've definitely noticed that I'm attracted to alpha male energy for sure. However, that one was an easy thing to notice, but in my learning, what has become apparent is that what can lead to that going wrong is an imbalanced ego or a relationship with the ego in that man, you know? So it's like the initial indicators can kind of like intrigue me and attract me, but they're also indicators of things that might not be well suited to a healthy relationship as it turns into a relationship and isn't just the initial banter or like, you know, that's like you know, that like exciting first like getting to know each other stage. The areas of the class that have dealt with identifying things like outsized ego or controlling energy has been of particular interest to me because you know, I've definitely foreseen or learned from the mistakes, you know, maybe in tandem that at the heart of a healthy relationship is a, you know, working and balanced energy between the two people and not necessarily like a strong you know, leader follower dynamic. That's not going to work for me. Like, I love, you know, I'm all for being the like sort of more feminine, maternal, supportive role, but there is a line of where that becomes out of balance that I no longer feel happy and, you know, satisfied and fulfilled. So yeah, all this learning is happening and being kind of brought into focus more precisely by the way that Agnieszka is teaching, you know, that this can be an indication of this, whereas, you know, this might be an indication of what seems to be the same thing, but is actually like a little bit more coming from somewhere else. Like, you know, all these kind of things, it's helping bring it into focus for me.
Right, because some of that stuff could be easy to like hide, or the man himself might not even know that about
Well,
him, you know? Like,
men are taught to be rather performative, actually, in trying to attract women, which is unfortunate as well. Like, it's sort of embedded in the way that we almost have to uh be ourselves turned up a couple notches to go play in that sandbox or whatever. But just kind of the way that like society is, I think that we've taught men to like feel like they have to kind of, yeah, like put on a show or something, and then you're in danger at least of not being truly yourself, you know? So yeah, it's like it's an unfortunate side effect of the way that things are, I guess.
yeah, and Agnieszka, what would you recommend to Jana as like, indicators of that kind of thing when she was like out and about and meeting guys?
So other than the sovereign body language, which I think is amazing course for being able to decode these interpersonal messages, I think another really, really great resource is the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which is about masculine psychology. But you know, nothing is necessarily about the masculine specifically because we're all humans. So you can just read the book and think about it in terms of feminine psychology and still gain the insight. But it is really useful for understanding men because you can see the difference between the immature expression of a certain trait or a mature expression, you know, and understanding like, oh no, he's not a bad guy. He's not a tyrant. He's just a high chair tyrant, you know, he's just being a little despot, a small despot, you know, and it's a growth element. It's the next stage is the king, right? So if he manages to balance that out, he will be the king. But right now, these traits, these experiences that we're having together might point to a tyrant or a despot, not the king. So understanding what stage of development your partner is at and how to meet them where they are and how to understand them where they're at and how to understand yourself and see what you're willing and not willing to put up with.
Yeah, because that's a huge part of it. Like, everybody's tolerance for things is way different, and you've definitely got to figure out what it is you actually want and what you need. And So in this way, like learning, your own body language, your own posture, the messages that your body is trying to tell you can be really useful in this. And I also wanted to say, in Agnieszka, you have a real resource because not only does she know the somatic teachings and the face and body reading, but she's had coaching, training, and she's been studying psychology like her whole life. So she's really got a lot of resources to attack the problem.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the sovereign body language class came together, is for you guys, really, essentially, because I took all of the learning that I had from psychology, from coaching, from psychosomatic therapy. I'm a master therapist in psychosomatic therapy from the Australian Psychosomatic College. That's what it's called now. It used to be called something else. But yeah, so I have a lot of these resources that are really, really useful and really changed my life. And so I want to help other people to be able to see that. And even like Jonah, I have a question for you. Even in the initial introductory courses or in the first half of the course that you've been taking, you have had the opportunity to take a mirror out and look at yourself in a completely different way and really recognize where you're holding yourself back. Were you fooling yourself? Were you telling yourself stories? And really go, oh, okay. And once you shine a flashlight on that, it's very difficult to forget that that's what's happening inside you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the cooler things was doing the study of the face, and it led me to understand where some of my masculine and feminine attributes were out of balance. And it, does line up with, as you have described, what it indicates or what it could tie back to, things in my past. So it's helped me to clarify where I might need to focus on the more, I guess, what do you call it? When you're like thinking about yourself, like self-reflection. So, in understanding the way to read your own face and the way that your masculine and feminine sides express themselves in that fashion, it has helped me to do even further, deeper self-reflection on, especially, former self things. I have decided that I like this former self rather than childhood necessarily, because obviously what happens in your childhood is a very formative stage and important, but also the things that happen beyond just childhood are important too. So it's helped me clarify on doing that self-reflection and understanding, you know, how we got here.
And there are layers to that as well. You know, you have self-reflection, that's one layer. The next layer may be self-parenting, like leading yourself in the direction that you want to live. Like, how do you want to live? Who do you want to be? Who did you want to be when you were a child? And how you can take the smallest step towards that future every single day, towards where you really want to be. And then I think the ultimate one is self-stewardship, really being in charge. And that's where sovereign body language comes in, because then you can fully understand. And if you're being childlike and immature version of yourself, at least you're aware of it, and you're not like in fantasy la la land about, oh no, I'm a hero in my own story. Sometimes you are, and sometimes you might just be a despot.
Yeah, I would imagine too that it would be hard to like attract and conduct a healthy relationship, like not only with a partner, but with everyone if your if your male and feminine energy are out of balance. Like if the relationship going on inside you between your masculine and feminine is not going right, then you know, you're just going to repeat that on the outside, right?
Well, and we were talking about that with the noses a little bit the other day when we examined the nose that comes right out of the forehead, right? Provides this more of a barrier. So the masculine and feminine don't see necessarily eye to eye. And each one sees elements that the other one doesn't. But remember, because of that, the nose coming out of the head is actually bone. It's a bone structure, right? This is the skull. So if it's grown like that from the birth, that means that that's something you've chosen for this lifetime. You know, it's the vehicle you were provided in order to drive in this lifetime. There are other muscular soft tissue issues that might be indicative of how you've been driving the vehicle. But with the bone, is something you came into this world to be. So if you have that kind of a nose that like provides a division between masculine and feminine, that's your challenge. That's your developmental challenge. We each have a number of these challenges that we're here to explore and look into and enjoy, challenging ourselves, overcoming.
And I have another example of that type of self-observation that you and your course helped me come to have a better understanding of, because I had noticed for a long time that I would constantly, if I am subconsciously in a resting, standing state, I realized that I've been standing with all my weight on my right leg and kind of like sticking my left leg out like to the side, whatever. So kind of like always like leaning to my right side. And uh I had noticed that I was favoring one side, but I never really like took time to like pin it in my mind which side it was, what that might mean, all these things. So you helped me understand that it's, you know, coming from probably leaning into intellect and the masculine energy and out of or away from the feminine and creative side of things. And uh, beyond that, then I also noticed that I specifically have a pain muscular that I'm working on healing, but in my left heel. So it's like almost these like dual things coming together of like leaning towards that side of my aspect and personality. And also there's a pain on the other side that is being avoided, like all in one thing. And so I've been, yeah, trying to work on that. And even just being aware of it is helpful. Even if you're not like 100% sure what to do about it necessarily right away. But because if you're conscious of where you're being out of balance in yourself, then you can actively work towards being in balance then.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
where in your heel is it? Is it like inside or outside of your heel?
Inside, and it seems to line up with what would be termed plantar fasciitis in the medical realm of things. I think that's what I would probably be like diagnosed as having if I were to go to a doctor.
So
But
in
I
psycho
don't know that that's what it is, or that's coming from whatever they say plantar fasciitis comes from. But it's like the fact that it's like can be a little bit more noticeable after a long period of rest. So it'll be like a little bit more noticeable first thing in the morning, right when you get out of bed, but can also be like inflamed by high levels of activity. So like I noticed I had done a little bit more running than walking like a couple days in a row, and it was like kind of hurting me extra at the end of that. So that's why I would say that's probably what it would be called. I'm not really,
So
sold
in
on
in
exactly that, but
psychosomatic therapy, we would analyze it as a base chakra challenge, right? And it's internal, right? On the inside, right? It's base chakra in your foot. So that means where you're going towards. So I would ask a question like, how do you feel about your upcoming several months? Like, how do you feel about your future and your earning potential and your ability to provide a roof over your head? Are any of these things, still in development? Because that little pain on your left foot, and see, it's not on your right foot. So intellectually, you can handle it. You can do whatever you want. It's on your left foot. So it's about the feelings. And it's also, so the other thing about always leaning on your right foot and not on your left foot is receiving. Like it's not just creative. It's not just expressive, the left side. It's also about receiving love, receiving money, receiving attention, affection, bringing all that in. So your body is communicating with you saying, hey, you're feeling a little bit trepidatious about what's coming up, where you're stepping, the next step in your life. but it's not on the, you know, you can handle it. You know, you have the skills that pay the bills and all of that. It's just the emotionally, you're like, eh.
Yeah, that seems to line up.
Yeah, that's so wild when that when she does that.
I
Uh,
know.
um, yeah, because that's one of the parts of it too, is it can bring awareness to what's going on and that's helpful, but there's also like steps you can take, right? Because like massaging the tension, or I know you've talked about like there's stuff to do with your hairline and like different little rituals that you can make out of it that can actually improve some of this stuff. And if you improve it like physically on your face, it will also improve it for you emotionally. Isn't that right, Agnieszka?
That's right. But also, it's like a conversation with your inner child, right? Your body doesn't really necessarily understand the nuances of what your brain understands, but it has an opinion. So it's like raising a small child. You know, you don't have to be scared. Everything is going to be okay. You can handle it. You're surrounded by a robust community that will support you no matter what. We love you, you know, you are loved, you're safe, and all that stuff, right? And see if you have a couple sessions of that kind of inner child meditation or inner child conversation, or what I would call self-parenting, and taking that part of yourself that's feeling scared and uncomfortable with what's coming and going, you know, we can handle it. We're good. Everything is good. Have I ever let you down? So
Yeah, I love that. Because I was gonna say that's like kind of where you have to start when you're doing anything, is you got to start with yourself and like your relationship with yourself and getting yourself ready to put out the energy that that you're wanting to attract.
yeah, for sure.
So would you have any like advice on things that are on ways that people like Jana or similar, I mean, other than joining the class, which would be the best way, but
Read the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Gillette and Moore. Come to class starting June 23rd. The new cohort is starting. So it's only once a week for an hour a week. It's not a huge time commitment, even though it is 24 weeks, but it's just once a week. And the reason it's structured that way is because that's the best way of getting you to internalize this information and deprogram your brain over time. I used to teach this class in a much shorter time frame, and unfortunately, that did not work as well as this longer session, because it takes time for you to understand and think about each of the weeks, each of the content elements before we can move on to the next one. And that way you can really brainwash yourself to whatever you want. Because brainwashing is not just for the bad guys, it's for the good guys too, as long as you're working it on yourself.
How about a brain rinse? You know, rinse it clean.
I guess you'd have to wash it and rinse it after washing it.
Yeah.
It's still self-parenting and self-stewardship, no matter what you're doing with your brain. It's maintenance. That's what it is.
Right.
right.
Yes.
So yeah, so the class like it not only helps you read the signals and read other people and be more confident, but there's a lot in it as well about maintaining your own system, getting yourself into balance and really learning how to take care of that inner child, as Agnieszka likes to say.
Yeah. Who you really are, who you have come here to be.
And and also and help you clean off your pillar of light, right? So everybody has their pillar of light, and after all of this programming and all, trauma and all of it, like it gets covered up, right?
It needs maintenance for sure. For sure. That's what, yeah, that's what my teacher used to call diamonds in the dog poop. You have to clean the dog poop off the diamond in order to shine the diamond again. But think about all the years that we're told, no, don't do it this way, be this person, dress like this, walk like this, eat like this, you should eat like this, you should eat like that. You know, when you're a teenager, you suddenly start realizing that everybody has a different theory of who you should be. And that should be your first clue. But often it isn't because we're just trying to fit in, right? Where the hormones and everything is trying to push us to be a good girl and at the same time rebel against your parents and be trendy, but at the same time don't stand out too much, and at the same time stand out just enough. And it's all very confusing. And we don't have a coming of age ceremony or clear cut responsibilities like we used to 1,000 years ago in society.
I'm just realizing from you saying that a very important point of focus on doing self-work would probably be to figure out the times you can remember as far back as you can go that you were told don't be like that, or that's not how we do things, or like, oh, you should dress like this, like it, wherever you were diverted from your attempt to express yourself out of like external, direction. That's probably a great place to go try to examine what were you trying to be? What was that impulse that you was like discouraged, and you should probably get back to that. Like, I'm just remembering that there was this like big, like giant rainbow hoodie. And at the time, it was also kind of fashionable to have big, big baggy pants. If you remember Junko, the brand.
Yes, I
And
had
like,
those.
yeah, it's okay. So I remember like comboing up these things at one point and like going to school and people being like, yo, what? I don't know what you think you're doing, but
Yeah, I was always the weird kid, like
yeah,
always, just straight out the gate. And people were like, "Don't you know you're weird?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. Cool."
I'm aware. Thank you. Like, yeah.
Totally. So, Agnieszka, you also have worked up a little taste of the class for those who are interested in finding out a little bit more. It's the 7 mistakes that women commonly fall for.
Yes, and I'm working for one for men as well. It's in progress right now, so that should be up on the website soon. But yeah, the Don't Fall for the Mask, and I don't remember the rest of the title, but it's about mistakes women make on first dates. And it's basically body language clues that you should watch out for when you go on a date. And even if you're going on a date with your current boyfriend or partner, it's not a first date, or even if you're a man, not a woman, all of these clues will apply. And the other thing is, I'm going to make sure that the men's key, the men's handout is different. So all of the women 7 keys will apply on some level to men as well, and vice versa. So you guys will have more psychological clues to look for on dates.
That's helpful because men and women are just not communicating the way they need to be today. Like you can look at, all the videos on it and, all the crazy talk and it's just, yeah. We really need to get back to communicating on a more honest and genuine level, it seems like. So
But you know,
I'm glad you
it's
put it out
not,
there. It's really helpful
yeah,
for
it's
that.
not necessarily about men and women. It's about any kind of relationship, like friends and coworkers or even same-sex relationships. It really doesn't matter because it's humans reading humans, humans understanding humans. And in schools, in elementary schools, whatever, we're taught to integrate and be uniform and act the same as all the other children. But in reality, there is a lot more to education than what we were taught. We were taught obedience and rote memorization. But there's a lot more that we can learn, about symbolism, but also about how the body communicates. Even different breathing patterns can give you different information about somebody, just observing how they breathe when you're sitting across the table from them. So,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because the brainwashing would have you believe that that's just all noise, like that it doesn't mean anything. And it's just like all of this communication going on all of the time, you know?
Mm-hmm. And everybody can read it on some level. Everybody understands it on some level. I'm not like, I didn't invent the wheel. I didn't even do it. My teacher, Herman Muller, and my other teacher, Carol Maureen Friesen, they're the ones who taught me what I know. But all they did is show me the labels to put on all of the different micro expressions and shoulder. I already knew all of that on some level. I could already read people on some level. But with these labels, it's a whole new ball game. The other thing I wanted to mention to you guys is that psychosomatic therapy like really changed my life. I was all scrunched up. My face was all scrunched up. And I was like, you've seen the photos, the before and after photos, right? And I was really like blaming other people for my misfortunes and having all of these psychological, essentially self warfare in my head, trying to talk myself in and out of things, back and forth, all of this stuff. And then when I started to shine a flashlight on all these internal conflicts and actually going, oh, wow, I see what's happening here. I see what I'm doing here. I see how I'm thinking about this thing here. It all started lining up, and it was so much easier to, see myself objectively as opposed to with like psychological dysmorphia, essentially.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, psychological dysmorphia for real.
Yeah.
And the negative self-talk, right? Got to quit with the negative self-talk.
Well, that's all part of it. Yeah, absolutely. And then, there's also all these theories like the demon network, that psychologist DMN network, right? The psychologist who says that there is like a voice in your head that becomes activated when you're not engaging in any creative pursuits and uh, will tell you all this negative stuff. I don't know where that voice is coming from or whatever, but I do know that if you raise your vibration, if you're happy, if you're joyful, if you think about how good that cup of tea tastes and that tea's so good, then you're pushing all those negative thoughts and negative impressions or whatever away, and again whittling yourself as to be more of who you really are, who you were, who you have come here to be.
Right. Yeah. And there's definitely something to being aware of the energy that you're putting out there too, because like so many people will like just they put off this like negativity or, like the asshole vibe, but then they're like, oh, everybody's always an asshole. And it's like, well, but look at what you're putting out there, people are reacting to what you're putting out there. So if you can like get your signal to be more clean yourself, then you can start attracting more positive interactions, I think.
There's a story about that. There was an old man sitting at the crossroads and meditating, and a young traveler came by and said, hey, old man, how is the village up ahead? Are there nice people in this village? What kind of people live in this village? And the old man looked at him, looked him up and down, and said, what were the people like in the village where you came from? And the young man said, well, they were just mean and nasty and backstabbing, always in competition with each other, never leaving anybody alone. It was terrible. Well, you'll find the people in this village pretty much the same. And the young man went off, and then another young man came by and asked the same question. And the old man asked, what were the people like in the village you came from? And the young man said, oh, they were the best people, the nicest people, would give you the shirt off their back. Well, that's how you'll find the people in the next village too. So how much
Very
of it
wise.
is perception and programming, and how much of it is reality?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's really true that at least part of the equation is whatever you're projecting is what is going to be the external reality as well. Not 100%, but definitely part of it.
But that whole projection thing also has to filter through the inner child. So if your inner child is safe and happy, you can project and manifest easier. And if you're still conflicted and listening to other people's voices and opinions in your head, then that can mess you up.
You can mutter your message, yeah. Well, that story was a great note to end our conversation on because first we all have to work on ourselves before we can attract what it is that we want. out in the world. So I want to thank you again, Agnieszka, for giving us all of that solid information, and Jana for being brave enough to come up here and bare your soul for us. Everybody make sure to check out the Don't Fall for Your Mask and ownyourbodylanguage.com for more information and for the new class launch in June.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Agnieszka, for sharing all your bountiful knowledge and being a wonderful teacher.
Nice, thank you. New class starts June 23rd, 2 different times. So you can choose either morning or afternoon. Thank you
Yep.
very much, ladies.
Thank you
Thank
as
you,
well.
ladies. And one more time, go to ownyourbodylanguage.com for more information. Thanks, everyone.